The past few days have been like a Twilight Zone episode. Now, I know we're not supposed to come on here and gloat or glamorize killing and murdering, so I'm not going into any details. But the fact is, I am indeed a contract killer. I can be found on the dark web and I work as part of a group, kind of. We don't work together per se, but we all have the same secretary. This guy verifies the person with a contract isn't law enforcement before finding one of us. Whoever isn't busy or already working on one to complete said contract. It all started about a week ago. My secretary had a job for me, so we met at one of our usual spots to give me the envelope. Some kind of priest, he said. I don't believe in God or the paranormal or anything like that, so the fact this guy was a priest or religious figure didn't faze me. I figured he was some kind of molester or something who got off easy. Client was probably a parent. After he left, I sat down on a park bench and checked things out. Guy was indeed a bishop based on his clerical attire and was probably about 60. Definitely looked like a priest. Plump but not fat, gray hair and wrinkly face. Looked like someone's grandpa. After I tailed him for a few days, I developed a pretty simple plan. The church was in a good part of town, so the doors weren't locked. Apparently, so anybody can go in and pray at any time. He had late confessionals scheduled for that night, which only 1 or 2 people showed up the night before, leaving out all the details nobody needs to know. I used a knife to keep things quiet, and that was that. Here's where things got fucked up. A few days later, my secretary says he has another one for me and we meet in the park again. Sounds like another priest, he said. It's pretty rare to get the same type of person on consecutive contracts, but it does happen. I took a bench afterward and checked things out. It's the same guy. This actually isn't all that uncommon. Sometimes multiple people want someone gone, so getting the same contract a day or 2 apart happens. I send my guy a message and tell him to let the client know he's too late. It's the same guy as before and the contract is complete. I throw the envelope out and find another bench and hang out for a little bit to enjoy the weather. After about 5 minutes, my guy sends me another message. Client says he was tailing the guy in the park just a few minutes ago. Subject sitting on bench feeding birds. I think to myself, he's mistaken. I completed this guy the other day. This wasn't my first rodeo. I know I got him. For completion's sake though, I decide to go put eyes on this guy sitting at the bench. I'm telling you, I know what I'm doing here. It's not going to be him. I get to the area in question and can see there's definitely a guy sitting at a bench feeding birds, but there's too many people nearby so I can't get a good look. I lean against a tree nearby and wait for people to start dispersing. A small group of kids move to reveal who's sitting there. What the fuck? It's the same guy. I'm shell-shocked at this point. I don't understand this. I try to rationalize in my head. Did I get him where I thought? I mean, I might be mistaken, but I'm a professional. I know where to stab a son of a bitch. Some other things pass through my head until it hits me. Of course, that's it. He's a twin. That's all it is. He's just a twin. I hoped I hadn't killed the wrong twin, but what's done was done, I guess. I did find it kind of strange that both twins were priests. But I also thought twins do a lot of the same thing. No mistakes this next time. I went to his residence near the church and waited. He lived alone, so that was perfect. I went loud this time. Bang, bang, bang. Left the gun and escaped. Done. 2 days later, I get a message from my secretary. He has another priest that someone wants gone. I tell myself, if I open this envelope and it's this guy again, it's the same fucking guy. I messaged my guy. I made sure it was complete last time. I used our code word for a gun kill. I got a message a few minutes later. Bull fucking shit. I think to myself, there's just no way he survived that last hit. Fuck, I didn't know what to do. It had been a long time since I didn't get the job done and left a survivor. I considered passing him off to one of my other contacts, but quickly decided that no. I'm gonna finish this guy once and for all. I went to church for the first time in probably 25 years to see this guy. Some kind of special service or something where a bishop was officiating mass instead of the regular priest. There he was. Alive as can be. Was this some kind of divine intervention? I'd done quite a few religious figures up to that point. What made this guy so special? After mass was over, I decided to stick around and watch this guy. A big group of people started forming out front that began to spill into the parking lot. Probably regulars, and everyone was out talking with each other. It was like a cafeteria. The sun was up high and beating down. A welcome respite from the rainy it had been. After spying for a while and pretending to mingle, I noticed something odd. Does he have a shadow? I don't even remember what made me notice this. Maybe it was all my years of people watching like that, but I was looking at him standing in the middle of the sidewalk in the bright sun and he didn't have a shadow. I shifted to get a little closer to see if it was just the angle from where I was. How could he not have a shadow? As I got closer, I saw he did in fact have a shadow now. Or did he? He started talking to a couple guys along the wall of the church, one of which looked like he was probably the priest who ran it. All four of them had shadows, including my guy, that from the sun's angle were lined up on the church wall. After a few minutes they all left, and my relief of him having a shadow faded. His shadow stayed on the wall where it was, even after he left. Who in the hell's shadow was that on the wall? It then suddenly disappeared before my eyes. I thought maybe I was just going crazy. Maybe it was getting to me that I had failed twice now, and not only had the target survived, but it then hit me right there that he apparently hadn't gone to the hospital either. Why didn't I think of that before? He'd been stabbed and shot and looked to be in perfect health. What the fuck is going on? I developed a new plan, and it was ugly. I waited until he got home from the grocery store, ran up before he even got out of his car, and knifed him. I won't say where, but he wouldn't be surviving that. I then set his car on fire and watched it burn for a few seconds. I watched just long enough for the flames to engulf his body before I got out of there. I told my secretary to defer contracts for a few days. I needed a break and to let things cool off. It was during this layoff that I got a message on my burn phone from an unknown number. It was simply a picture of the bishop, the guy I'd now killed 3 times, sitting on the same park bench as before feeding the birds. A second message came in seconds later. No, he's fucking not. I get my stuff together because of course I'm going to the park to see for myself. It's not fucking him, I repeat to myself. Impossible. I almost ran 2 or 3 red lights to get to the park. It's only a few miles from where I live. I practically sprinted across the field to the bench in question and see someone was sitting there. I nearly puked. The fucking bishop was sitting there feeding the birds. I back off. I don't want to look suspicious. How is this possible? What the fuck is happening? I almost started hyperventilating. I got out of the area and went and sat underneath a large tree. I had to get out of there. Fuck this. I was going to tell my secretary to hold contracts for me until further notice and give my current assignment to someone else. I'm done. That night I was awoken in the middle of the night. It felt eerily quiet, and I couldn't help but sense I wasn't alone. I felt something wet, and before I could do anything I saw something move in the darkness in the corner up by the ceiling. I couldn't be sure if it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but it was fluid, like it was a cloak or a curtain, and moved with a soft whoosh in the air. I jumped up and flipped the light on. I was alone in my room, but there were red stains all over my bed. Something was dripping down from the ceiling. I had a couple drops on my shirt as well. I looked up and saw a message written in blood on the ceiling. I didn't have to taste it like dumbasses on TV always do. I know what blood looks like. Fuck off or die. Interesting. It was clearly a warning. From who though? The bishop. There's no way that was him in my room, nor could he have written the message like that on the ceiling. I pondered over the previous few days. A contract that wouldn't die, and now a shadow person apparently leaving messages and blood in my home. Did I take drugs the other day and forget? Am I on a bad trip and imagining everything? The sun was coming up, and I felt myself nodding off in my living room when my burn phone suddenly rang. We never call each other on these phones, only text. It was the same number from before that had texted me that the bishop was in the park after I blew up his car with him in it. Hesitantly I answered it. Hello, you seem to have quite the problem, my friend. His voice was soft, and he sounded like he was an older man and had a thick German accent. Who the hell is this? I asked. My name is F.R. Mueller. I am the one who hired you. I need to meet you face to face. I am afraid we are all in very serious danger.